Both of you, I think, have been to the United States, talking of united, okay? And when you think of a country where people have a very, very clear sense of national identity, the United States is one place, if you've been there, because whether you have come from Turkey or Mauritania, or you're Native American, or you've come from Australia or Europe, you know, your religion is Jewish, Muslim, Christian, people have somehow forged a sense of common identity, even though they squabble at home. How does one forge that common identity on the African continent? Ayo, what does the United States of Africa look like to you?
Well, the United States of Africa would look like very similar to Europe, for example. I expect that, seeing that we were colonized, either be it from French or Portuguese or Brits themselves, for us to aspire naturally to follow that way. And of course, what's been coming out of the AU is that they have an intent to follow that model. The question is that the best model for Africa? Mm-hmm. Are there aspects of it that we'd rather not use? Again, that would be for another discussion over time. But the Africa has come a long way, and we've got to appreciate that, because we've seen change that has happened on the continent itself, and it's changing far quicker than you and I would realize.
When you say change and quickly, what kind of things are you talking about? Because there are many of us living here in the diaspora who don't go home very often. We just send money and stay in London or Paris or Berlin. And many of us don't think there is that much change.
There is change. I mean, I can give you, I wouldn't have thought in my lifetime, with the level of inequality that we have with genders, for example, where women's roles are not recognized, where they work from 7 in the morning till 7 at night, where as a result of that lack of recognition, they become invisible and they have no reward to show for it. The president of Liberia is a typical example. She is a female president of that country. Unheard of. I would never have thought of that in my lifetime. Secondly, we look at Rwanda, for example. You've got female MPs outnumbering male MPs in parliament. Now, this is not just in Rwanda. This is not just in Africa. This is for the entire world. You don't even have that in the British Parliament. So there we see Africa improving, moving at massive paces, despite all the constraints, all the problems we have. So it wouldn't be surprising for me to see a united Africa in my lifetime.
And Sylvie, what about you then? Your own United States of Africa. Is it a case of, yes we can, or not really in my lifetime? There are too many other things on the ground that we have to fix first of all, like getting goods and services to the people, giving them health care, all the basics that we take for granted here in this part of the world.
I hope we can. I hope we can in my lifetime. Now, you made a good point about the sense of national identity in the United States, and that's something that Africa and the African Union can learn from the United States in terms of defining extremely well what is the African Union, what are the United States of Africa like, and what are they for, in order to avoid the sense of national crisis that we see in the UK and globally at the level of the European Union as well. And for me, how will the African Union look like? There will be, of course, more responsible leaders in charge, people who will govern Africa for the sake of African people, not for their own personal interest. And also, the African Union will be, for me, more capable of solving its problems, that we won't have so many wars that are left untackled. And also, we will have an African Union where we have a more sense of unity. And to come back to the point that Ayo made earlier, that there has been change already. And the change that I have noticed most is that in the 1980s, most African countries were dictatorships, and now, in 2009, most African countries have democratically elected presidents. And for me, the African Union of the future will be more democratic, much more democratic than it is now.
Let's hope so. Let's hope we can say yes, we can, and we will.
Yes.
Sylvie, Abua Bradwell from the Center for Democracy and Development, the international coordinator thereof. Of course, they're based in Nigeria. Thank you very much. And Ayo Johnson, commentator and broadcaster on African affairs. Thank you very much.